Star Fox Switch 2 success could send a strong message if it ends up working out the way that I think it's going to work out, because this game is more important than maybe some people are realizing because of all the different things that has had to happen in order for us to get here right now with Star Fox. It's a lot deeper than maybe what you would expect. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Let's discuss exactly what's happening on here, because this game, when it comes to how it looks, it really separates itself. And this is part of what I'm talking about when it comes to sending a strong message. Most of Nintendo's games on the Nintendo Switch 2 so far have been very stylized, have been a bit whimsical. They've had the certain style and the certain graphics and look that people expect when it comes to Nintendo's top franchises, and that's fine. Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Legend of Zelda, whatever that's come out, it's been fantastic. There's been a lot of great stuff, but Star Fox looks completely different. People were expecting one thing and got something completely different, and yes, that can bring about controversy or people being upset or saying that it looks terrible, but at the same time, it creates a bunch of intrigue and people talking about this game because it just looks so different from what we typically expect from Nintendo's games. Now, I grew up old school, where the type of, I would say, look of this new Star Fox game is literally what I had in my head with the puppets and the marketing material for Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. That's how I felt this game was always pushed, as a highly graphical, intense type of game that pushed the system to its limits. That's what I thought with Star Fox on the Super Nintendo because of the FX chip, and that's definitely what I thought with Star Fox on the Nintendo 64, where that game just looked incredible for the time. Now, obviously, things took a little bit of a turn when it comes to the GameCube and when it comes to the Nintendo 3DS, where they just kind of remastered the same N64 game in addition to what they did with Star Fox Zero, so I get that, and Star Fox Command, but how it was before, it's completely different, and I think that people are starting to actually now like what's happening with this. And I think this is going to get the attention of so many different people when it comes to the game, just because, once again, it doesn't have that typical cartoonish type of look that you would expect, or cell shading or something like that. It's something that's different, and it offers variety, graphical variety, that Nintendo has not had up until this point, outside of different art styles. Remember, different art styles, yes, we've had that. Obviously, Pokemon Legends ZA does not look the same as a game like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. But when I'm talking about like a realistic looking type of game with highly detailed fur graphics and all that, that's what this game does. The explosions, the R-Wings, the water, the environmental details, all of this looks fantastic, especially compared to what we've gotten so far. So I think that is a huge thing in terms of this game's success. That shows that something else can do really well. Now, another strong message that it shows if Star Fox Switch 2 is successful is that we want classic franchise coming back. This is something that I hear Nintendo fans talk about all the time. Where are the classic franchises? Where is F-Zero? Where is Kid Icarus? Golden Sun? Well, when something like this comes about, there's gotta be a way to where it does good. Otherwise, I think that it discourages Nintendo from maybe going back into the well with some of their classic franchises. Now, we had a similar scenario, not exactly the same thing and definitely different, but this kind of happened about 14 years ago when it comes to Kid Icarus Uprising. That came back, wasn't a remake of an older Kid Icarus game, but it did take a lot of the enemies and some of the stuff, and they put a new scenario, new gameplay, new different things. But it's a classic franchise coming back with a really good look to it. Great graphics and everything. And how's this game going to do? Kid Icarus Uprising sold okay, over 1 million units, but it definitely wasn't as big of a success story maybe Nintendo was looking for, considering they got Masahiro Sakurai to make it. It had 3-on-3 online multiplayer, had an in-depth single-player campaign, tons of replay value. I was expecting it to do a lot better than it did, and it's a really good game. So I think that we need to show that it's better than that. I think that we need to show that Star Fox, if the success is good, that it's much better than when they brought back Kid Icarus. And then we could see other things, like F-Zero, like Golden Sun, like some of these classic Nintendo franchises that have been buried for a while. I think those can come back, maybe even in big, in-depth remakes. F-Zero X, F-Zero GX, I think that's possible. Golden Sun remake, I think those are things that Nintendo is definitely going to look into if Star Fox Switch 2 is a success. Now, another thing that's big when it comes to sending a strong message is the pricing. The price of this game is lower digital and physical than what you typically expect from Nintendo in the first number of months that they had the Nintendo Switch 2. All of Nintendo's games were $70 physical, $70 digital. Doesn't matter if it was a remake or a re-release or something else like that. I mean, we've seen it before, guys, new games. They'd all put it at that price. Not at this point, they're saying, okay, we have some games that are cheaper. We have some games like Star Fox, for example, that's going to be $50 digital and $60 physical. And that is good, because I know I was expecting, and many other people were expecting, that this game was going to be $70 at first. Before Nintendo announced the whole changes in physical digital pricing and what they're doing, I was expecting that it was going to be full price like Mario Tennis Fever or like what they've done before, but that's not it here. So if this is very successful, that shows that Nintendo should do this more often. If this game blows it out of the water when it comes to sales, we get the sales numbers and it shows that it sold like 2 million plus copies or something like that, and it sold better than Mario Tennis Fever. I think that sends a massive message to Nintendo that, yeah, you price some of these games a bit lower. You give us some options when it comes to physical and digital, fully on cart, whatever the case is, right? You give us these options and you give us a bit better on pricing, people are going to support it way more. Because I think if you would have asked people beforehand, what's going to do better, Mario Tennis or a Star Fox remake or Star Fox re-release, everyone would probably pick Mario Tennis. But that might not be the case now, considering how many people are pre-ordering this and where we're seeing it on the Amazon sales chart so far. And I think that once it goes live for preload, it's probably going to shoot up to #1 right away. That $50 price tag is incredibly inviting. It becomes almost an impulse buy or impulse purchase for many people that even just have a slight interest in Star Fox or seeing what this franchise is about. So I think that's probably one of the stronger messages that Star Fox Switch 2 success can show, if it ends up ultimately doing really well, is that pricing it that was a good idea. So I hope that this game does really well, because that would show that that pricing's good. Give us more $50 to $60 games, Nintendo. I think that is a good idea. Now, another thing for this is that we could probably get more Star Fox games in a timely fashion. Star Fox has been dormant for a while. It's been a decade since the last Star Fox game, Star Fox Zero. So if you don't want to wait another decade, I think that having Star Fox on the Switch 2 do well is good. Now, I'm not saying that people should just go out there and get it for the fear of not getting another game, but we know Star Fox 64. We know how goated this game is. We know how goated this franchise can be. And from what I've analyzed, which I've watched that Star Fox Direct at least 20 to 30 times now at this point, between editing and looking at it in the trailers and all of that, this is an in-depth, highly detailed, fantastic playing game. I can tell. Sometimes you can just tell when the controls, the audio, the gameplay, and everything just syncs up to make it feel like it has a coat of polish that definitely was not there before, despite Star Fox 64 being one of the polished and best controlling and playing games on the N64. In addition to the Nintendo 3DS, there is an extra layer of polish on there. Just from watching it, I highly suggest all of you guys go back, put on the headphones, and watch it on a big TV or watch it right there on your monitor and look at it with no distractions around you. This game is quality when it comes down to it. I can tell just by looking at the game. So if this does well, I think they're going to take that same engine, they're going to take those same graphic technology, they're going to build upon it, and we can get more Star Fox games. We can get brand new Star Fox games. I don't think they're going to remake Command or some of the other games that haven't came over. I think they're just going to re-release those in some type of NSO when it comes to getting some of those systems like the DS or getting the GameCube Star Fox Adventures or Star Fox Assault. I think they're just going to release it like that. But I think that a new game could happen because of this. Once again, there is quality and there is money being put behind this project. If it does well, that success shows that Star Fox should continue, and it should continue in a timely fashion. We don't need to wait 10 years for the next one. The groundwork is laid out for this franchise to be successful. So I do think that if this one does well, we could see a lot more Star Fox games in the future. Now, of course, I don't want them rushing them out. I don't want them every single year or something like that, or every 2 years, but every 3 to 4 years, getting a new Star Fox game, that would be ideal for this type of franchise. So the success would definitely show Nintendo that more games should be coming. And of course, we got to talk about boosting the profile, because boosting the profile of the Nintendo Switch 2 is one of the more important things. But once again, I talked about before with the graphics look of the game and how it sets itself apart. Graphical variety, Once again, that's huge for the Nintendo Switch 2. The more people that pick up the Nintendo Switch 2 for the variety of games, the better for Star Fox. That sends a huge message. If people are picking up the Switch 2 and Star Fox June coming up, you have the choose your bundle or pick your game bundle that's going on here. So if people are picking up that in Star Fox, this game Star Fox, along with this promotion that they're having, is really boosting it. That is just beneficial to everyone going forward. That is a beneficial thing. It shows that Nintendo can give us good deals on things, because that's been one of the big knocks when it comes to Nintendo's games and everything. And I talked about it before with Star Fox and the pricing when it comes to that, is that they're not giving us deals, that we don't get discounts, the games are too expensive. Well, now you have that choose your game bundle along with Star Fox for $50 to $60 depending on physical digital. That is going to show, if it's successful, that's going to show that we should be getting those deals all the time, like we used to get back in the day on the NES with the bundles, or the Super Nintendo, things like that. Switch 1 kind of left that behind for a bit, but I think now at this point it gets highly competitive, prices are going up, competition's going up, it's getting tougher and tougher to sell people on high-priced systems with expensive software. This is one of those things that Star Fox can kind of come in and set the tone for what Nintendo can do going forward with pricing, with the bundle with the Nintendo Switch 2, and just showing that people do want this type of thing regularly when it comes to Star Fox remakes, N64 stuff. So I think that all of it kind of plays a part. But I think that ultimately, the biggest thing with Star Fox, for me at least, Star Fox Switch 2, it shows that gamers can be open to something a bit different when it comes to games. That's the biggest thing that this success story, if this ultimately ends up being successful, I think that's the message that it can send, that it's something different. Rail shooters, a genre that's pretty much dead at this point. Nobody else makes big budget or anything to the level of this, of a rail shooter. Now, will you see smaller indie games that are fantastic rail shooters? Absolutely. There's a bunch on Steam. I think there's some even on Nintendo Switch 1 and Switch 2. So there's some great stuff, but nobody from the big companies, whether it be Microsoft, Sony, Konami, Square Enix, Capcom, none of them are making this level of quality rail shooter out there. So to me, the success of Star Fox Switch 2 would show that this isn't a dead genre. You can put some money into it. You can put some AA type of money into it, and we can get some pretty cool stuff. And I think that the big thing here, and I talked about classic franchises coming back, but I think ultimately the big thing here would be something like Sin and Punishment. That would also be something that's like a rail shooter, something like that coming back. Because of the success of Star Fox, it only takes one game to kind of really spur people to say, okay, maybe we should do something else. And that's why I say all of this is super important for the classic Nintendo franchises, for the fact of the Nintendo Switch 2 system itself, enhancing the install base so we get more content, we get more games, we get more third-party support. All of that is super important. So I think Star Fox being an iconic and huge N64 game that pretty much got a lot of people into gaming. A lot of people, that was like their first big Nintendo game that they played back in the day as a child, along with like Mario 64 and stuff like that. A lot of N64 kids back in the day. I think that that's huge. I think that that's huge, and I think that there's a lot of nostalgia tied to that that's going to get people to pick up the system for it. I'm probably going to buy it digital in addition to buying it physical. That's how much I want to support this game, in addition to probably giving away a digital copy. But I know I'm going to be picking up this game physical. I've already got mine pre-ordered from Amazon, so that's already set. But I'll probably be picking up a digital copy just so I can show that extra support, because I want to see Star Fox be good. I want to see Star Fox come back, and I've seen enough when it comes to the previews and what they've shown off. I think the game is going to be phenomenal, and the extra stuff added into the game, the multiplayer stuff, the battle mode, I think that's pretty cool. And I like the cutscenes. I think that showing some of the downtime in between the missions and kind of what the Star Fox crew is doing, in addition to that prologue chapter with James, Star Fox's dad, and how and what happened to him, I think that can set up something for the Star Fox universe that just makes it a bit more visceral and kind of takes the storytelling to the next level, to where new people can kind of get into it a bit more and sets the tone for the franchise going forward. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But what do you guys think when it comes to Star Fox Switch 2 and the success potentially sending a strong message to Nintendo? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.